Okay, guys, we got a question for you. Have you ever thought, I feel like I'm doing all the right things, but something is missing? What is it?
So it's, if you think about recovery, have you ever wondered, like, I- what's not working? Something's there, something's not happening. I'm missing a piece to this. So we're going to get into this today. We're going to break this down. But before we get started, check this out.
All right. I'm so happy you guys are here with us today. We love you and we appreciate you. I have a really nice review from one of the gals that I mentor that I wanted to read because you're going to see. Wow. She saw something that I had shared a year ago. So you guys know we have 2 years of content. And so you probably missed something, right? So she missed something and she said, how did I miss this? But a year ago, I was in a different place. I have no idea what I was doing to fill all my time back then, but I was probably numbing out. My life today is packed with affirmations, meditation, exercise, and journaling. It's called self-care. Today, I'm grateful for mindfulness and awareness of my self-worth. Thank you for your support. I never knew what I was missing. And the coolest part of this is this woman is not 20 years old. She's a grandma.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
That's so cool. I have so much respect for especially this woman, but anyone who says, hey, I didn't know what I was missing, but I'm embracing
no matter
this.
what season of life you're in.
Yes.
That's awesome. It's really cool.
Yeah. All right. So because of your loyal listening, we have been growing a ton. And you guys know we started on an ironing board in our kids' bedroom.
With a mic that kind of works.
Super sophisticated.
You guys know this because you've listened to our, first episodes.
There is a difference.
Yes.
And, we're still learning, but you guys have been patient with us. And we have a lot of behind the scene things happening. We're trying to help you guys more and find new ways that we can offer help.
More resources.
Yeah.
I think, guys, when we got into this, we knew there was a need for this information and what we're doing. But it's kind of taken on a life of its own.
Yeah,
and as it has, we've realized we got to step up and we got to get more legit, better technology, but also more resources and just opportunity to help people in a bunch of different ways.
Right.
So things like Patreon and courses and content and stuff like that. We're trying to do it as fast as we can, but we're doing it legitimately too and giving good stuff.
Yeah. In fact, right after this, I have my intimate access private call with a group of people over on Patreon.
And that intimate access, just real quick, is exactly what?
It's just a one-on-one group call with each one of us every month.
Yeah.
And that's really special access to ask the questions that you want to ask that we don't always get to answer over on social media and such. So we also have a more scheduled and routine announcement because we do like to be scheduled and routine. We just always aren't. So we're going to be releasing our podcast every single Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. Mountain Standard. That means on your commute to work, we'll be right there with you.
While you're making breakfast for the kids or getting ready in the morning, we'll be there.
Tuesday morning, 7 a.m. Mountain Time.
Yep.
Awesome.
All right.
All right, so let's break down the 3 critical categories, I would say, of recovery. So the question was, what am I missing? I feel like I'm going to the right therapist. I feel like I'm going 12-step. I'm doing these things. I'm doing everything that I should do to be in recovery, but something's just not working. And so what this episode is about is looking at what I believe are 3 crucial categories that are important for your recovery. And the reason why I say categories is because underneath these things, there's a lot of stuff. But if you understand these categories, it's a good basis for really killing it in your recovery and doing a really good job in finding peace, in creating love, in having healthy relationships.
So
and overcoming addiction.
Let me ask you a question about one line you just said, Brandon, which is the part where it's like, I feel like something's missing. Like I'm doing like everything that I think I should be doing, or I'm doing everything that's recommended. even by potentially a CSAT. But I feel like something's missing. What could that look like? That I feel like something's missing. I think this is important for you and I both to kind of frame that from our experience. Is what is missing. But what would you say that is? What's that like? What's
all the
the
clients
feeling
you
inside?
see.
Well,
have
and it
since-
comes back to the question that we talk about a lot, which is what is recovery? And I think recovery is not going to therapy, paying the money, and sitting in a group for 3 years, and then that means you're in recovery. That's not recovery. When we say something is missing, hopefully the reason why you go to therapy, the reason why you go to 12-step is you are striving toward feeling peace. You're starting to love yourself again. You're starting to be empowered and be able to step into your purpose with who you are as a person, and you feel freedom. You feel alive. You feel good. That's what recovery is about. It's not just, like I got cheated on, or I struggle with this, so now I'm going to go sit in therapy and pay money or whatever to get better. It's way more than that. There's a point to it, right?
There is. And, listening to you describe that, Brannon, I think back to my old mind, which I had no idea what I was missing out on. Of course, I wanted to live a healthier life, but it seemed too hard and I didn't have time for it and all the things.
Right.
And I was mad. I was mad at Coby. I was
Right.
mad that this was my life. And so for me, I think it seemed so out of reach.
The thing about it, Ashlynn, is, we as humans, I'm going to get a little deep here, so hang in here with me. We don't know what we don't know. And so there's other paradigms out there. And it's when you start to get into recovery, these things start to open up and you see the paradigm. It's like, oh, like this is how marriage really could be. Oh, this is what life without addiction is. Like the haze is gone. The vibrance of my life is coming back. This is what it feels like to be in alignment with God and to have purpose. Like, wow, this is amazing. When you're in the thick of it, when you're wallowing in the pain or resonating in the shame, you can't even see it. You can't even feel it. And you might be wallowing in that pain and resonating in that shame while you're sitting in a therapy group, or while you're sitting in front of a therapist, or while you're doing all of the right things to try to get out of it. You still might be there, right?
It really is that. And I've said it before, I say it a lot, but recovery has given me the life I always wanted. And it may sound, because we have this podcast, because we share publicly, that we live recovery every day. That's all we talk about. It's not.
No,
This
not even a little.
This is a way of life for us.
Yes.
That it's not this like, I have to do these things. I have to do this dumb podcast because it's part of my recovery. Absolutely not. I would not be here if I wasn't passionate about this feels freaking good.
Right.
And I want you to feel freaking good.
Right. Ashlynn, you teed up the first category perfectly. So the first thing to really evaluate and look at whether or not your recovery is working is, what is your intention behind why you're doing what you're doing? If your intention is to try to look good enough to somebody, then you're resonating in shame and you're going to create more shame. If your intention is because you're angry and you're trying to be better than your partner and show them how awesome you are so you can shove it down their throat, then
I've been
there. Right. Then you're resonating in anger and blame. And you're going to create, with all the good stuff that you do, you're going to create anger and blame.
Yeah.
So you got to first check out your internal motives as to why you're striving toward what you're striving toward.
Let me share a couple of those that, from my perspective, like what that actually looked like for me. Because there's some different ones, right? I think the therapist that we went to, the general therapist that we went to before we started specialized therapy, I wanted connection, okay, and I wanted I wanted more from our relationship.
And you want me to be nice.
And I wanted you to be nice, right?
Hey, be nice and where's my sex? Kind of.
I don't think that's.
I think
that's
that really
right.
was.
Exactly, right? Right. And
That'll solve all our problems.
Exactly.
Just do it, right?
That's why we went to a sex therapist first.
There you go.
Right. But we went early, like I think year 2 or 3, we went to a therapist, I think we went like 3 times, and you were like, I am not going back. And I wanted just more harmony, and I wanted more sex for sure. But the second time we went to therapy is because it was after the emotional affair, and I was caught and compelled to go. So I was there from like an obligatory standpoint. Like I was obligated to go because my church leader said you need to go to therapy.
Right.
Okay. So I was compelled.
So right there, external motivation, obligation, being compelled.
Totally.
Your heart's not in it.
Not even
Not in it at all.
Only my heart is in it only to the extent of saying this is a problem and I want it to go away. And if you say need to go to 12, like the 12 step, you need to go for 12 weeks, I'll do it.
Right.
But I didn't do anything else. So my intention showed up in what I didn't do. It also showed up in my attitude about going to group, where actually like, hey, so are you gonna go tonight? I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go.
So
like I would.
So you just said something that I really want to, and maybe I'm hearing you wrong, but it's an important point, which
Okay.
is if you start working recovery to try to stop doing something, then you're not going to create something positive. So if I start working recovery because I don't want to masturbate and look at pornography, and that's my whole focus, that's everything.
The don't-ing.
The don't. Like, don't do that, don't do that. And if I don't do that, then I'm good enough. That's going to undermine real healthy recovery.
And it sucks. Like that's
It's horrible.
that's-
It's a white knuckle fest.
Well, and I think that's why we hear from people that say, like, what are we doing wrong? Because it's so uncomfortable and so, like, I hate that all the conversations we have are about recovery work.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, no. Like, that's not recovery.
It's not.
That sucks.
Right.
That
All
super
the
sucks.
conversations we have are about recovery work, which is what we're actually doing is gauging whether or not you're acting out or not. What kind of relationship are you going to be in if that's what you're always kind of talking about, right? So
It sucks. And I know because we did it.
Yeah, for sure. There's an interesting distinction that I want to make based on what you just said. And you were totally accurate in assessing what I was talking about, because that was totally me. But here's what's super, super interesting, because I know from my perspective, this is what I was thinking. Okay. I was feeling layers of pain, but the loudest and most obvious pain was I was caught. Ashlynn knows my secret, and now we're fighting. So what do I need to do to stop fighting? What do I need to do to make this uncomfortable situation go away? I was not uncomfortable. I was not recognizing the pain that actually came from addiction. That's how deep in denial I was.
right.
I just wanted the
Just to
symptoms.
stop.
Yeah, yeah, and it's not. Again, I want to be really clear. It's not. I want to stop masturbating and looking at porn, because I was far too sexually entitled to go there and to think about that. I wanted the discord. I wanted the fighting. I wanted the mean Ashlynn to stop.
Right.
And I didn't consciously say that. I never did. But looking back, that is exactly where it was. My intention was to stop. It's like to stop the bleeding.
Now, I do want to say this, going along with what you're saying, that external motivator can push you into doing some good things that can work on you to start to create the internal motivation. So if you're at that place where it's like, gosh, I want to stop having affairs. I want less problems in my relationship. So what, should I not get any help? Absolutely, go get help, because you don't want those things in your life. But there's this shift that I see take place with recovery, where recovery becomes this, it's this thing that's not a burden in life. It's this thing that's an awesome blessing, and something that it's a lifestyle change, and it's a way that you get to live.
Totally.
And it's like the people who really, really understand recovery, they get that. It's amazing to live this way in recovery, right?
Yeah.
And that is a process, and it might not happen the first day that you realize, oh, I need help, right?
Oh, it takes a long time. And I feel weird right now. I'm like filled to the brim with just, my heart is full. And I joked before this, like, I want to bear my testimony of recovery, but I do. Like, it feels good to live this way. And it's given me the life I always wanted. And that is exactly why we share, because it's not this I'm better than, and we're doing it right, and you've got to do it our way. It's figure out what your way is.
Right.
Get to healing and whatever that looks like. But oh my gosh, don't
There's
miss
so
out
much
on
more
this.
beyond
Right.
Yeah.
the
Yes.
place that you're in right now.
Right.
For sure. That's very well said, Ashlynn.
Amen, Ashley. I love it.
My heart is just like, oh, give this to them, but I don't know how. So that was as much as I can give.
You know, it's hard when, and we work with people, and we have for a long time now, years with some people even. And it's hard when you see this cycle of, you know, I've been sober for long enough, so therefore I'm good enough, or for the women sometimes it's I've been through this many groups, I've read this many books, so therefore I'm good enough, and it's not about that. That's not what this is all about.
Yeah.
It's about why you do those things so that you can feel that peace.
I hear this word a lot lately with women of I've had this awakening. And I really think that's what it is. It's when you hit that awakening to there's more and this is deep and I'm figuring out who I am and I love who I am. I am worthy of living a life where I take care of myself, where I want to grow. And I
Right.
want to surround myself with people like that.
And this is high level recovery, but this is where you can get it for the betrayed. You get to a place where you really deeply understand that this betrayal was not about me. And this betrayal, this thing happening in my life, has propelled me to be a better version of me. And it has nothing to do with my partner and who they are. Now I get to live a happier, healthier life because I have stepped into that pain, the betrayal that came with the betrayal, but it's about me now, right? So
That's awesome.
okay, so that's category number one, which I'll call it have the right intention behind it. Okay, second category for recovery is it's life balance. It's Rat Park. If you don't know what that is, we've talked about it in other episodes. But it's creating a life that supports being healthy and being happy. And so it's shifting a lot of things in your life where you have less cortisol in your life, cortisol being the hormone that comes from stress. You have more sleep in your life or less sleep. You have balanced sleep. You have more energy. You feel alive. And so there's a lot of things under that. So there's big shifts you can make to create a Rat Park, and there's little things you can do that we talk about all the time, like dailies. Daily habits that just support you to be a healthy human being. And this is important both for the betrayed and for the addicted.
100%. And really the question we get all the time, how can I trust? How do you know when you can trust again? And it's not this one answer, but this absolutely for me is part of it. And it was seeing that consistency and seeing the shift in Coby in just being routine.
But Ashley, I do want to say, so that is important. You can trust again because you're seeing him balance his life and create a healthy life. It's a lot easier to be like, okay, maybe a change has happened. But your job is to observe that. Your job is to just watch that happen, not to crack the whip to get him to do it.
Yes,
right?
And for sure, that was always part of our dailies is, hey, I'm doing this thing and you're welcome to join me, but I'm not.
And it comes back to the first thing we were talking about, which is if he has this internal motivation and this intention to live a different life and not live in his addiction, he's going to do these things on his own. You're going to watch that and you're going to see transformation in his life. And that does start to create trust.
And I have travel on my mind because we're traveling next week. And I know we're so excited. And part of it, in my head, in the beginning, dailies would go out the window because, hey, we don't have to live a balanced life. We don't have to do all recovery stuff because we're on vacation and, oh my gosh, like I'm getting away from reality.
Right.
But why the heck stop what's making you feel good?
Yeah, that's a great question.
That's a great way to actually, that's like a great way to vet your intention. Do I view dailies and the balance that I have in life on vacation the same way that I view dailies and balance in my life when I am at home in my normal routine? right?
It's harder on vacation, 100%, because you're not routine.
Because you're not in the same
However,
environment and the same structure and so forth.
It's fun for me because I'm like, ooh, we get to work out here and we can like listen to scripture on the beach. We can like we can do different
We
things.
worked out we went to Europe 18 months ago, and we worked out on the deck of a friend's house that overlooked this lake. It was in this forested, hilly country, the beautiful lake that's surrounded by evergreens. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is like, we want this desperately. And so, in my opinion,
but you're on vacation. You should just be sitting there drinking a milkshake.
We would have. If we had not worked out, we would have sat in that house and had breakfast and looked out the window and said, "You have a really pretty view."
Right.
For
Let
sure.
alone, but what you did was really connect.
Oh, it
we
was
super connected
to the earth too.
Yes,
It was
love it.
like all over the place.
And that's because you stayed with your dailies.
Yes. But I want to just point something out that's super, super critical. And it was an aha moment for me. And that is when dailies are done while on vacation, meaning you don't have to worry about work. You may or may not have your kids with you. You have a really conducive environment for relaxation, for self-care. Then your dailies, you're going to get more out of them as you execute in a relaxed, conducive environment. So that workouts, just like we said, can be like, guess what? I was going to work out in a hotel gym or an Airbnb or on the back deck of our friend's house. And guess what? The back deck of our friend's house with the view that we had made our workout so magical
and memorable.
And listening to personal development, listening to do my spiritual devotional while on a train from Bruges to where did we go? To Paris was incredible because I'm watching. It's just so there is a really great way to ask yourself, what do I do? How do I view my dailies while on holiday, while on vacation? And that's a great way to say, okay, my intention really is to do this and have life balance. And because again, this is not, at first it's going to be about, I have to do this because this is what recovery demands. But there will be this threshold that you'll cross where you'll realize I own these dailies and I own them for myself personally because of what I've been given that transcends recovery. And it develops and grows and changes you from within.
Right. And
to me, I don't ever care. Like if Ashlynn, you just said to me, guess what I'm never going to work out again or whatever. It's like, okay, you do you, but I'm going to do me and I'm still going to work out. I'm still going to do my spiritual devotional. I'm still going to do my personal development. I'm still going to check in. No matter what, that's mine and I own it, right? Regardless of what happens.
Right. So there's not a set, list of dailies that everybody should do.
Yeah, totally.
However, there's certain things that I believe are very important and very healthy. And so I believe everybody in recovery needs some level of physical activity, just to move your body.
Yes.
And to release. It's really good for the addict because not relapsing is learning how to tolerate pain, and exercising is learning how to tolerate pain. It's also good for emotional release. It's good to feel alive and just good physically.
Mental focus,
and it gives you self-confidence. Like, look what I'm doing. I'm growing. I'm changing. I'm sticking with it.
It makes you feel like I love myself, so I take care of myself. Yeah. So one guy might run a half marathon every day, and one guy might walk around his block.
Yep.
There's not a should. There's not but
totally.
Just to get out and move, whatever you do.
Intentional movement.
Yeah, and the same goes with spirituality.
Yeah.
Intentional movement, let's call it.
Yeah. It looks different for everyone.
Right. I might go in the mountains and meditate for 2 hours every day. That'd be awesome.
I know. If we had time, yes.
Yeah. Or someone else might pray for a minute, or just breathe, or whatever, meditate, read good books, whatever the spiritual devotional is.
Totally.
I think what's important is that you set an intention to have that spiritual devotional and create what you need to create with that and be consistent in doing that over and over again. So spiritually, emotionally, physically, right?
Yeah.
Have those dailies. Even as with relationships, you can have dailies as well. So
really what you're talking about is connecting to your physical body. You're talking about connecting with your emotions and your soul, and you're talking about connecting with your higher power.
Yeah. Yes.
And what you just described are things that have helped us to get to that place.
You know, with you saying that, it's life balance creates an ability to live in the present moment.
Yeah.
Living in the present moment creates an ability for you to connect to self, God, and others.
Yeah.
And that ultimately is what recovery is about connection back to self, vulnerable, healthy connection with others, and connection with God.
It's awesome.
Right?
I have to mention this really quick. I had, we offer, hey, here's some dailies to get started with, but there's always like, hey, I'm going to add these to my daily list. And it's always fun to hear what people say, hey, I want this as part of my daily, because it's so different for everyone,
Right.
like you said. And so some of people, because, we all start at different places, Coby and I both didn't take care of ourselves at all before this.
Yeah.
Right.
And that included like making your bed or showering every day.
Absolutely.
And so some of my girls have said, hey, I'm going to make my bed every day. By this time,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to shower every day, no matter what. I'm going to get ready for the day, even though I stay at home. Like,
Right.
I think that's cool too. It's
Right.
super different, but it's saying I'm worth taking care of.
So think about what you're
Well said.
saying, Ashlynn. So somebody who's been paying a lot of money, sitting in a lot of groups and therapy, it might be you showering every day that shifts your recovery drastically.
Which sounds
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, you might have all the lingo, all the words for recovery and understand but really your heart isn't feeling recovery because you're not loving yourself and you're not starting with the basic things like taking a shower every day.
That's
right?
kind of mind blowing because, I can see it,
Right.
and it's the basics, guys.
If you get that right intention to do something positive for yourself consistently, it's going to start to shift
And
things.
not big, not 2 hours a day
Right.
of meditation, because no one has time for that.
It's balance.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, is balance. Okay, the last category, I want to make this less clinical, but a lot of it is cognitive behavioral type therapy stuff. But what that means is that you start to become conscious. You start to become aware of your thoughts, meaning you know what your triggers are. You have bottom lines. You can regulate your emotions. And there's a lot underneath this category. But when you're mindless, when you're just bumping along and you're in your limbic system all the time, and what that means is you go to your emotional mind and you start just behaving in that emotional mind, then you're going to be addicted, or you're going to be shut down in your betrayal and not being able to manage. So this category is about the tools to have control over your brain and not let your brain have control over you. Okay, so like, what are some examples of this?
Coby, I was a really great example of mindlessness. Just, I'm going to numb out like crazy. I didn't know what I was feeling. I honestly, like, even just being aware of triggers and my spike narrative
Yes.
of oh, you know what, this is a boundary for me, of figuring it, like, this is who I am, and this actually doesn't work for me. In so many different areas of life, the fact that I could set a boundary with my kid's teacher kind of blew my mind.
Right.
Whereas the mindlessness of years ago would be like, I hate their teacher because she's making them do all
Right,
this
right, right.
homework.
Right.
Instead of like,
So you guys
Oh.
are big into the emotion wheel,
yes,
right? And that's in this category. So the reason, why do you even talk about that? Why do you look at it? Like, what does that do for you guys?
Well, it helps me. Sorry, I was equal parts mindless, and I didn't know what I was feeling. I was coined myself as the optimist in a relationship, right?
and I was the pessimist.
Yeah, and I made sure that you knew that. Anyways, that guy. I was such that guy. But what I realized is that I wasn't an optimist. I was in denial, always, about what I was in denial of anything challenging or hard. So being mindful has been super, super challenging. Being mindful of emotions, to realize I actually do experience dozens and dozens of emotions every day that I never felt, I never registered, I never paid attention to. And now that's a super important part of my day for me to be self-reflective, but also it's a peek behind the curtain for Ashlynn to understand what the effect of my day was. And that's brought us together in a very, very meaningful way.
Yes. Yeah. See, you're mindful, you're conscious, right? So the spike narrative, that's another tool, right? And go check out our episode on the spike narrative, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
And that's a tool for you to be able to, what is it exactly, really quickly in a nutshell?
The spike narrative is a narrative in your head that tells you that you're no good, that says that you can't be forgiven, that you're never going to get over this, that that things are way worse than what they actually are. And it's essentially kind of the concept of like the devil and the angel on your shoulder, right?
Yes.
The
And it
devil
can
and
feel
spike
like
is the
that.
same thing. Yeah, it can feel
Right.
like that as well, and be super self-destructive. And
But it's separating you from your thoughts,
Yeah.
and then being able to kind of analyze what that thought is saying.
Yeah.
So you can regulate your emotions around that thought and then shift that thought if you want to.
yeah,
Correct.
and if you can shift that
Right.
thought, then you can also separate yourself from the shame that's associated directly with that
Yes.
thought. More importantly,
And
Ashley.
here's one of the mindfulness parts that came into my life, not through recovery, but in parenting. So when I would yell and scream at my kids and then leave the room and feel awful, like I am
Yes.
such a bad mom. What is wrong with me?
There's spike
Yes.
there.
But the shift was, okay, figure out what you're feeling. Right now, I'm stressed because of this person that I'm supposed to have to be sending an email to, and I didn't have time, and now my kids are home, and now I'm like frantic and stressed. And so I'm going to scream at them when they do one little thing,
Right.
rather than being present and saying like, "Hey guys, I need 5 minutes, or I can come back to this later." I was not at all mindful of where my head was,
Right.
and I would react,
Right.
just react to everything.
But then it perpetuates itself. It's you react, then you feel bad, so you
Oh,
feel
yeah.
more emotion. But when you stop and you get curious and you're like, oh, there's this narrative. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I accept myself where I'm at right now. I'm gonna manage this now
Yeah.
and respond differently. That's just classic cognitive behavioral therapy that we call the spike narrative. It's understanding your thoughts, controlling those thoughts so you can manage your emotions. If you can manage your thoughts and your emotions, then you can choose your behaviors and you can change your life, right?
It's awesome.
So there's a ton of things around this for relapse prevention, because ultimately when you relapse, there's an emotional thing underneath it. There's pain underneath it, and if you have the tools, the mindfulness tools to slow that down and to understand that, you can choose your behavior. You can choose not to do destructive things in your life. So there's things like bookends and bottom lines and all kinds of like anchors, and all these words are different tools that we use to help you manage your mind and live consciously. So
and that's super, super correlated, really. Like it's directly correlated to your intentions. So if you're like, I don't know if my intentions are legit, one, you can say, when I go on holiday, do I do my dailies? Do I do the things that are going to keep me safe?
Right.
But also, when I'm thinking about my intentions, am I actually really mindful about my emotions? Am I mindful about my behaviors? And there's going to be a learning curve to figure it out when you first start.
Right.
But if you're into recovery 6 months or more, and you can say, I'm not really conscious of my thoughts, my actions, I'm really just moved upon and pretty erratic, then that can be a clue as to where your intentions are. And you can improve and become more focused with your intention on these specific skills.
Right.
And that will help in the journey overall.
Right.
Okay. Would you agree with this, Brandon? The whole timeline. You mentioned 6 months into recovery, you can do this. There isn't a timeline.
Right.
And so it doesn't matter if you are 10 years in or 10 days in.
Right.
These are the things
Right.
that can help you.
This is what we talked about like 2 weeks ago on our episode, which was, when you look back on recovery, you see the progression, and it's not like you arrive. It's not like, 6 months in, now I have, I'm perfectly mindful of all of my thoughts all the time. I
Right.
have perfect intentions. The goal is not to become perfect. The goal is to engage in these things that create a process. And as you engage in that process, ultimately the outcome is peace and healing, right? And that hopefully will happen for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
That you can create peace and healing.
There's
Right.
always that growth mindset.
Yeah. So I do want to say, we've scratched the surface today, and the good news is this. Well, the good news is that we're able to give you some really helpful content and things to think about. But there's a lot of depth to this, and there's a lot of ways in which you can learn the specifics behind the things that we're talking about. So, like Ashlynn, Coby, you have your coaching program. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I do women's groups and offer those to people all around the world at different times of the day. Or it's not therapy. It's not what Brandon offers.
It's like accountability groups where you consistently are able to check in about these things.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's the living of, okay, how do I actually put into my daily life what I've kind of taken out of therapy?
So how do they find out more information or contact you guys for that?
You can email us or go to our website, just ashlynandcoby@gmail.com.
Okay. I have, so I do have access to good help for people. And so you can probably get an intake appointment with me, if not me, with a colleague of mine. And I can direct you toward really good help if you don't have it. So you can email my office at office@therapyutah.org, or you can call us at 385-254-3522. And you can check it out. So you can get help from Ashlynn, Coby, and I directly. The other thing is Patreon, which we talk about all the time. We go into depth with these things, much more depth than we do on a podcast. And then we are actively working on other awesome stuff that we're going to continue to release. We want to help you in every way that we possibly can. We want to make it affordable, and we want to just help you really have what we've been talking about today.
Right. Doesn't matter where you live, and you can get the help you need.
Absolutely.
So, all right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you every single day.
Yeah. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys. Peace out.